Welcome to HFY Strikes. Now buckle up and listen to our HFY sci-fi story. The twin suns rose slowly over the emerald hills of Belvaria, spilling golden light across the tranquil alien landscape. Morning mist drifted lazily across the shimmering silver lakes, and soft birdsong-like chirps echoed through the crystalline trees surrounding the peaceful settlement. It was the kind of day where nothing should go wrong, where the universe seemed perfectly still. But inside a quaint home perched at the edge of this harmony, something stirred. Azora moved gracefully through her kitchen, her long, straight white hair falling down her back like a river of starlight. Her blue skin caught the sunlight filtering through the glass panels, making her glow like a goddess born of sky and ocean. She was humming, though the notes trembled slightly, betraying the storm of nerves hidden beneath her serene exterior. She was making breakfast, not just any breakfast, Celeste's favorite. Fresh Drakean roots sizzled beside sunleaf herb-buttered meat slices, and the scent was enough to make her own stomach tighten. She hadn't eaten much lately, not since the news, not since the test confirmed what she already suspected. She was pregnant, and not just by anyone. Andrew, the human, the one who had stumbled into their lives just a few months ago and somehow made everything feel new again. As she carefully placed the last plate on the table, Azora paused, her hand trembling over a cup of tea. Would Celeste understand? Her daughter had always been close to her, closer than most siblings even. But this was different, complicated. Just then, soft footsteps echoed down the hallway. Celeste appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her golden eyes, her expression still soft with dreams. She looked so much like her mother. Same striking white hair, same cerulean skin, same quiet grace. But Celeste was younger, sharper around the edges, like a blade still cooling from the forge. She froze as the aroma hit her. Her eyes widened. "Mother," she asked, blinking in surprise, "are we celebrating something?" Azora offered a tentative smile. "Good morning, sweetheart. Come sit. I made your favorite." Celeste furrowed her brow but obeyed, slipping into the seat opposite her mother. She looked around, suddenly alert. "Okay, spill. You've never made this much food unless someone died or someone's in love. And you're glowing. Don't deny it." Azora took a breath. It was time. She reached across the table, took her daughter's hand in hers, and said with a small, fragile smile, "I'm pregnant." Silence fell. The only sound was the gentle bubbling of the kettle behind them. Celeste's mouth parted, but no words came. Her eyes widened to saucers. "Preg what?" Her voice was a whisper, barely formed. "You're pregnant, but how I didn't even know you were." Azora chuckled nervously, her cheeks flushing a faint violet. "It's a recent development. Do you remember that human Andrew?" Celeste blinked, then flushed violently. She looked away, her voice suddenly tight. "Of course I remember him." Azora's eyes softened, drifting toward the window where sunlight danced on the leaves. "He's kind, gentle, brave, and lonely like me. It just happened." Celeste stiffened, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a knot form in her stomach, tight, coiled, and burning. There was no more time to pretend. I need to tell you something, too," she said, her voice barely a whisper. She was shaking now. "I'm pregnant, too, Mother, and Andrew is the father." The air cracked. Time froze. Azora's golden eyes widened in disbelief. Her hand shot to her mouth. "What?" Celeste's voice broke. "I didn't know how to tell you. It just happened a few weeks ago. We got close. One night, I'm sorry." Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her vision. "I never meant to betray you. I didn't know you had feelings for him. I didn't even think." Azora was silent. The silence dragged. Then she reached across the table, gently cupping her daughter's face. Her fingers brushed away the tears. "Oh, Celeste," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. It seems we've both been claimed by the same storm. Celeste blinked. You're not angry. Azora shook her head slowly. I could never be angry with you. Not for love. Not for this. Andrew is unique. And if we both saw something beautiful in him, that only proves how real it is. They sat in silence for a moment, mother and daughter, both pregnant, both hearts tangled in the same man's orbit, until a soft knock echoed at the door. They both jumped. Azora stood heart-hammering in her chest and opened the door. And there he was. Andrew. Tall, rugged, with short, tousled dark hair, stubble lining his jaw, and a soldier's weight in his eyes. His voice was deep, laced with tension. Sorry to bother you. I'm looking for Celeste. Is she here? Azora stepped aside, nodding. Yes, come in. He entered hesitantly, freezing when he saw Celeste, seated at the table, eyes red, face pale. Celeste, he asked, concern washing over his features. What's wrong? She rose slowly. There's something you need to know. She glanced at her mother, who gave her a nod. Celeste's voice trembled. Andrew, this is my mother, Azora. Andrew's face went pale, his jaw slackened. You're your mother. Azora placed a steadying hand on his arm. Yes, and we have something to tell you. She exchanged a glance with her daughter. We're both pregnant, she said. And you're the father. Andrew stumbled back like he'd been struck. Wait, what? Both of you, I didn't know you two were related. How? Celeste's voice broke. We didn't plan this. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. He ran a hand through his hair, stepping back, his breath uneven. This is a lot. Azora nodded, calm but resolute. We understand, but we're not asking for anything right now. Only honesty, only presence. Andrew looked at both of them, two women so different and yet so alike. One older, radiant with quiet power. One younger, fierce and vulnerable. And both were carrying his children. His children. He took a breath. We'll figure this out. Together. The three stood there, frozen in a triangle of love, fear, and fate. Outside, the suns continued to rise. The world spun on. But their lives had just changed forever. And somewhere beyond the hills, beyond the calm, a shadow stirred. Something ancient, something angry. Something that had been waiting for Andrew to stop running. That afternoon, the silence inside Azora's home was a strange companion. The three of them sat around the same table, the food untouched, now long cold. Outside, the peaceful alien settlement buzzed with life, but inside, the world had become a pressure chamber. Andrew leaned back in his chair, elbows on the armrest, brow furrowed deeply. He stared into space, his mind adrift in a fog of disbelief. I still can't believe this is happening, he said at last. His voice, usually calm and grounded, trembled with the weight of new reality. I mean, a few months ago, I didn't even know where I belonged. Now I'm the father of two children. He paused, his voice catching. With a mother and daughter. Celeste lowered her eyes. You don't have to stay, you know. That made his head snap up. What? You didn't ask for this, she said softly. You didn't plan any of it. If it's too much. No, he interrupted, shaking his head hard. Don't even finish that sentence. Azora reached across the table, placing a hand on his. Her touch was soft, grounding. We're not looking for promises, Andrew. Just truth. What do you feel? Andrew took a breath, closing his eyes. And for a long moment he said nothing. Then in a voice almost broken, I feel terrified, overwhelmed, but also like I finally have something to fight for. Something real. You two, you gave me something I never thought I'd find. A family, Azora whispered. He nodded, a reason to stop running. Celeste tilted her head. Running from what? Andrew hesitated. For a moment, he looked like he might lie or dodge or laugh it off. But then he sighed and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. The man who had always seemed strong, unshakable, looked small, human. There are things about me, he began slowly, things I haven't told anyone, because I can't remember all of them, because I was made to forget. Azora and Celeste exchanged a glance. I was found in the wilds beyond the northern ridge. That part was true. I didn't lie about that. But the rest, the blankness, the fragmented dreams and nightmares, they're real too. He rubbed his temples. I remember flashes, gunfire, screaming, a white room, tubes, wires, people in masks, my hands covered in blood. But I don't know if it was mine or someone else's. Celeste's voice was barely above a whisper. Experiment. Andrew nodded. I think I was part of something, a program. Military Secret Science Division. I don't know. I don't think I was always this person. Azora's voice was quiet but unwavering. What are you afraid of? That I'm not just a man, he said. That I was something else. Something made for war. Something dangerous. The room fell silent. Then a soft sound, a chair scraping, as Celeste stood up. She crossed to Andrew, knelt beside him, and took his hand. You're not that person anymore, she said. Whatever you were, you're Andrew now, and you're ours. Azora came to stand behind him, resting a hand on his shoulder. We'll face whatever truths come, she said. But you're not alone, not anymore. Andrew looked at both of them, a lump in his throat. Thank you, he said, his voice thick. You have no idea what that means to me. And for the first time in days, he smiled. But the moment of peace was short-lived. That night, as the stars blanketed the alien sky in brilliant constellations, a shadow moved across the horizon. Silent, patient, watching. A figure cloaked in black stood atop a rocky outcropping miles away from Belveria, red eyes glowing beneath the hood. Found you, it whispered. The next morning, life in Belveria returned to its tranquil rhythm, but inside Azora's home, the family's dynamic had shifted forever. Andrew, Azora, and Celeste moved as one, now a triangle forged by fire and confession. They began making plans, living arrangements, baby names, how to tell the community. Celeste laughed nervously over tea. They're going to think we're insane. Azora arched an elegant brow. They already think we're strange. Why not go all in? Andrew smiled. As long as we're together, we can handle it. They sat in a shared silence, hands entwined, hearts sinking like a single pulse. But as the suns climbed higher and the breeze stirred the leaves outside, a prickling sensation crawled across the back of Andrew's neck. It felt like being watched. Old instincts, ones he hadn't used in years. He didn't mention it. Not yet. That night, after the others slept, Andrew stood on the balcony and stared into the darkness. Something was out there. Something he couldn't name but could feel. He whispered into the wind, more to himself than anyone. Whatever you are, stay away from them. The knock came just after sunset. It wasn't loud, just 3 firm raps, but it echoed like thunder through the quiet home. Andrew was the first to rise. He'd been half dozing in the living room, Celeste's head on his chest, Azora curled at his side. All 3 had learned to savor these moments, soft, stolen, sacred. But something about that knock snapped him upright. He moved to the door silently, instinctively, grabbing the pulse blade tucked into a drawer beside the entryway. Old habits from forgotten wars died hard. When he opened the door, he saw him. Tall, broad, skin the color of smoldering embers, and eyes 2 burning coals glowing beneath a scarred brow. Hello, Andrew, the figure said, voice like gravel dragged across steel. Andrew didn't blink. Raxon. Celeste's voice echoed behind him. Andrew, who is it? Stay inside, he barked without turning. Both of you. Raxon smiled, a cruel wolfish grin, still playing the protector, I see. That's rich. You think they'll love you when they know what you really are? Andrew stepped forward, letting the door close behind him. They already know, and they love me anyway. Raxon tilted his head. Then they're fools. What do you want? Andrew asked, his voice flat. To finish what we started, Raxon replied. You walked away, but you know better than anyone they don't let us walk away. Andrew's jaw clenched. I'm not one of them anymore. Raxon laughed a sharp, humorless bark. That's not how it works, brother. You think they erased your past, they just buried it. You think you're cured. You're a weapon, Andrew, one they forged in blood, one they still own. Andrew stepped closer. I don't belong to anyone. Raxon's hand glowed green, a sickly light swirling across his palm. Then prove it. He lunged. Andrew moved faster than his own thoughts. Steel clanged against crackling energy. The two figures collided in the dust like twin meteors. The air sizzled with kinetic bursts. Andrew ducked under a swing, pivoted, and drove a blow into Raxon's ribs, only to be flung back by a pulse of energy that sent him skidding across the ground. Inside the house, Celeste screamed. Azora rushed to the door, only to freeze in horror at the sight of the two men, one she loved and the other a monster wearing a soldier's skin. Andrew, Celeste cried, stepping onto the porch. Stay back, Andrew shouted, blood at the corner of his mouth. Raxon's eyes flicked to them. So this is what you traded greatness for? A pair of blue-skinned breeders and their spawn. That did it. Andrew rose slowly, his body tensing with every muscle wound tight as a drawn bow. These are my family, he growled. And if you touch them, I swear I will finish what you started. He struck first this time. Faster, harder, more focused. He landed a devastating punch that cracked Raxon's jaw sideways, followed by a knee to the gut and an elbow to the temple. For a moment, Raxon staggered off balance, off guard, but not defeated. Raxon roared a blast of energy, erupting from his core, sending shockwaves through the dirt. Andrew barely dodged in time, the pulse grazing his ribs and scorching his side. Azora ran forward. Andrew catch. She tossed him something, a small device, metal and humming. Andrew caught it midair, a grav pulse core, her old engineering tool. He slammed it into the hilt of his pulse blade and twisted. The blade hummed to life, glowing with amplified force. With a roar of pure fury, he lunged again. They clashed like titans. Sparks flew. Dirt and rock exploded around them. At last, Andrew landed the final blow, spinning low blades, slicing across Raxon's side, then uppercutting him straight across the jaw. Raxon crumpled. Andrew stood over him, panting, his chest heaving. You're not welcome here. Not now, not ever. Raxon spat blood, smirked weakly. They'll come for you, Andrew. You can't protect them forever. Andrew's eyes narrowed. Maybe not, but I'll die trying. He turned to Azora and Celeste, his blade flickering off as it powered down. Inside, now, he said. No one argued. Back in the house, silence returned, but it was no longer peaceful. It was the silence of storm aftermath, of hearts still racing. Andrew sat on the floor, knees drawn, pulse blade beside him. Celeste brought a med kit. Azora sat quietly watching him, eyes wide with emotion. Who was he, she asked. My past, Andrew said, and a reminder that it's not done with me yet. Celeste sat beside him, her voice tight. Are there more like him? Yes, Andrew admitted, and they won't stop. Azora leaned forward, placing a hand over his. Then we won't either. He looked at them, his family, his future, and for the first time truly understood what was at stake. Not just his life, not just their safety, but the fragile dream they were building. Something worth bleeding for, something worth dying for. But not today. Today they survived. The sun had barely risen over Belveria when the first whispers began. By midday, the entire settlement was buzzing. A fight, energy blasts in the sky, a stranger with glowing red eyes, and Andrew the human standing over his fallen enemy with a bloodied blade and a haunted look in his eye. Some called him a protector, others a danger. By the following morning, a message arrived, formal, sealed, and bearing the emblem of the Elder Council. To Azora, Celeste and the outsider Andrew, you are summoned to the central square at high sun. Your presence is required for inquiry and clarification regarding recent events. It wasn't a request. The square was already filled when they arrived. Azora walked with quiet dignity, her long white hair braided in loop behind her shoulders. Her hand rested protectively over her swollen belly. Celeste walked beside her straighter than usual, hiding her trembling hands behind her back. Andrew followed, slow and deliberate, face calm, but his jaw set like stone. They passed through rows of silent observers, neighbors, friends, strangers. Some stared in awe, others in judgment. At the center stood the five elders, ancient beings with dark blue skin, their golden eyes sharp and unyielding. At their center was Elder Varnak, tall, regal voice like a mountain. He raised a hand. Azora, Celeste, Andrew, step forward. They obeyed. Varnak's gaze lingered on Andrew. We have heard troubling things, violence, energy signatures, a former enemy. Andrew nodded. His name is Raxon. He was part of my past. He found us, attacked me. Varnak's eyes narrowed. And why, Andrew, would someone such as that seek you out? Andrew hesitated, then told the truth. Or most of it. I was changed before I came here. A soldier, modified, part of something bigger, something violent. A murmur spread through the crowd. Andrew continued, but I left that behind. I had no memory when I arrived. I only wanted peace. Celeste stepped beside him. He has never hurt anyone here. He's protected us, protected me, protected my mother. That earned a louder murmur, a few gasps. Azora didn't flinch. She stepped forward, voice clear. Yes, we are both expecting children, his children. The murmurs became thunder. Varnak raised his hand again. Silence. The crowd obeyed. He turned back to them. Do you understand what you've done? Azora's voice didn't waver. Yes, we chose love. Unconventional, yes, but honest and strong. Varnak studied her for a long moment. You ask much of this community, Azora. Protection, tolerance, forgiveness. Why should we grant it? Andrew stepped forward. Because I'm not who I was. Because I'll fight to protect this place. Because I already have. And what if your past returns? Then I'll meet it, Andrew said simply, and I'll end it. Silence. Then Varnak did something unexpected. He smiled just slightly. You speak like a warrior, he said, but live like a father. That is rare. He looked to his fellow elders, then nodded. You will be watched closely, but for now, you are allowed to remain. Relief flooded Andrew's chest like a wave. Celeste exhaled sharply. Azora closed her eyes just for a moment, as if whispering thanks to the stars themselves. Varnak added one final note. But know this, outsider, if harm comes to the settlement again, and if you are the cause, direct or indirect, you will not be spared a second time. Andrew nodded, understood. The crowd slowly dispersed, some still whispering, others nodding thoughtfully. The three of them stood together in the emptying square, hands intertwined. They had passed the first test, but more would come, and next time, it wouldn't be words they'd have to defend with. The days that followed the council's ruling were quieter, but only on the surface. The settlement had granted them a fragile peace like porcelain resting on a stone shelf. It was there, yes, but ready to crack at the smallest tremor. Azora could feel it in the way her neighbors stopped making eye contact. Celeste could feel it in the sudden silence whenever she entered a room. And Andrew could feel it in his bones. He had spent years fighting through instincts honed by violence, trying to become something gentler. But now those instincts screamed louder than ever. This peace wasn't real, it was borrowed, conditional. It wouldn't last. Still, they tried. They tried to build a life. Andrew poured himself into preparing the nursery, even carving wooden shapes by hand, fox-like creatures from Earth, that neither Celeste nor Azora recognized but adored. He painted the walls with stars, constellations from both Earth and Belveria. Two worlds unified. Azora resumed teaching at the settlement science garden, although fewer students showed up now. She pretended not to notice. Celeste worked in the archives sorting old tech records, translating human data into their native script, her way of preparing for the future they were bringing into the world. But each night as they lay together, sometimes all three, sometimes two, at a time, there was always a lingering silence. A silence full of what-ifs. One evening as the wind stirred, the alien trees outside Celeste sat on the windowsill hugging her knees. Andrew approached her quietly. "They still don't look at me the same," she whispered. "They're afraid of what they don't understand," he said gently. "Or maybe they understand too well," she replied, glancing back at him. "Maybe they think we're proof of something broken." "You're not broken," he said, sitting beside her. "You're brilliant, brave. You stood with me when you didn't have to." She smiled, but it was small, tired. "You make me feel like I can change the world," she whispered. "But I'm starting to think this world doesn't want to change." Andrew didn't have an answer. The next morning, Azora was tending the garden when Elder Varnak approached her alone. He didn't speak at first, just watched as she gently guided vines along support beams. Then softly, "You look tired." She didn't look up. "I am growing life while defending it. Tired seems fair." Varnak's voice was more curious than stern now. "Why did you choose him?" Azora finally turned. "Because he didn't choose himself." Varnak raised a brow. "He didn't come here as a conqueror. He didn't seduce us with charm or power. He was lost, gentle, real, and he never pretended to be anything else." "You know what he was trained to be," Varnak said. "I do, and I also know what he became despite it." Varnak studied her for a long time, then nodded. "There's a storm coming," he said. "Not just from your past, but from ours too. You may have to choose family or people." Azora's jaw tensed. "They are the same to me." "We'll see," he said, and walked away. That night, as Celeste slept and the wind howled outside, Andrew sat alone on the porch, gripping a data pad. Old files flickered on the screen, blurry, fragmented memories restored from a corrupted backup he'd buried deep in his mind. He saw his old squad, names he didn't remember, but faces he couldn't forget. He saw one mission flagged in red: Project Sovereign. It wasn't just experimentation. It was domination. Weapons designed to infiltrate, seduce, and assimilate alien leadership through relationships. Hybrid offspring with accelerated cognition and adaptive abilities. He had been one of them, a prototype. And he'd done exactly what he was meant to do without even knowing it. He dropped the data pad. His hands shook. "No," he whispered. No, this wasn't manipulation. It was real. I love them. I love you, all right." Azora stood behind him, her robe pulled tight against the cold, her belly rounding now with the unmistakable shape of life. Andrew turned away. "I just remembered something." Her golden eyes narrowed. "What kind of something?" He didn't answer, but he didn't have to. She stepped forward, placed his hand over her belly. "You feel that?" A soft kick. "I don't care what you were made for," she said. "You chose us, and we choose you." Andrew looked at her, eyes brimming with guilt and wonder. "You don't think I'm a mistake?" Azora shook her head. "I think you're a miracle built in the shape of a weapon. And I think you've spent your whole life learning how to become more." Andrew nodded slowly, then looked past her toward the darkening sky. Because deep down he knew something she didn't. Weapons don't stay buried forever. 3 nights after the Elder Council's judgment, the skies above Belveria changed. It began with a flicker, just a shimmer above the horizon, so subtle most would have missed it. But not Andrew. He was awake when the stars blinked. He was watching when the sky whispered his name. The transmission came through at 0307 settlement time, a buried frequency Earth military encoding decades old. The comms tower should have filtered it out, should have ignored it. It didn't. The signal forced its way through like a blade through cloth. Ghost Protocol Code Alpha Reclamation. Project Sovereign. Asset 017A initiate homing response. Andrew's blood froze. No name, no emotion, just designation. Just the past clawing its way back. He smashed the screen. Too late. The system had already pinged. They knew where he was. At sunrise, Andrew stood alone in the garden. Azora found him there, staring into nothing, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white-blue. "You felt it, didn't you?" she asked softly. He nodded. "They're coming. The ones who made me. The ones who still think I belong to them." "How soon?" "I don't know. Hours, days. But they won't stop this time. They've initiated Ghost Protocol." Celeste joined them moments later, reading the terror in both their eyes. "What does that mean?" Andrew turned to face them, face-pale voice, flat. "It means they're not coming to negotiate. They're coming to reclaim me, or destroy everything around me, trying." He looked at their stomachs, at the life they both carried, at the future they were building. "I won't let them take it from us." Azora stepped closer. "Then we prepare." "No," Andrew said. "Then I run." Celeste gasped. "What?" "They're tracking me. If I leave, I might be able to lead them away. Buy time. Keep Belveria safe." Azora's face darkened. "And what, sacrifice yourself like some martyr?" "Andrew, you're not alone in this." "You don't understand," he snapped. "I was a weapon, Azora, designed to seduce, infiltrate, and reproduce. Everything I've done this life, this love, it could have all been programmed." Celeste reached for his hand, but it wasn't. He shook her off. "You can't know that." "I can," she said fiercely, stepping in. "Because programs don't stay up all night holding someone while they cry in their sleep. They don't carve stars into nursery walls. And they sure as hell don't beg the stars to spare the people they love." Andrew's throat tightened. "You are not their asset anymore," Azora said. "You're ours, and we will fight with you." He closed his eyes, tears threatening. "Then we better make a plan." By nightfall, the settlement's defense council had been convened in secret. Azora and Celeste stood on either side of Andrew, speaking to the leaders as equals, now not as outcasts. Elder Varnak leaned forward, steepling his fingers. "You're saying Earth sent a recall protocol? After all this time?" Andrew nodded grimly. "Not Earth, a ghost division, one that's supposed to be long dead. But they're back, and they want what's in my DNA." "And your children's," Varnak added. Azora's fists clenched. "They're not lab samples, they're ours. And I don't care what they want," Celeste said. "If they try to take them, they'll have to go through us." Another elder spoke. "Do we fight?" Andrew hesitated, then shook his head. "We hide, we prepare, but most importantly, we survive." "They'll scan for me," he added. "Heat sig, genetic drift, cortical pulse. I need to mask my entire neural signature." One of the engineers, an old friend of Azora's, spoke up. "We'll need to rewire the defense grid, shut down all active scans. Go analog." Varnak nodded. "Do it, whatever it takes." Andrew took a breath. For the first time in his life, the people around him were not fellow soldiers. They were family. That night, while the settlement shut down his digital veins and rerouted energy grids, Andrew snuck back into the comms tower. He knew it was dangerous. He knew it was a trap. But part of him had to see. He rebooted the broken console manually, bypassing the AI lockouts. A single message remained on a darkened screen. "Asset Bone A, you were never meant to become this. Return or be terminated." Below it, a blinking cursor, awaiting a response. Andrew stared at it, then typed, "I wasn't meant to become this, but I did, and I'll never go back." He hit send, then wiped the system, and walked away from the tower without looking back. They came at dawn. No warning, no negotiation, just fire from the sky. The first missile tore through the atmosphere like a falling star, slamming into Belveria's outer watchtower and vaporizing it in a bloom of blue flame. The shockwave rippled across the hills, shattering windows, tossing airbikes like toys. Then came the drop pods. Sleek black metal coffins that screamed as they tore through the clouds and embedded into the ground, hissing open to reveal not soldiers, but ghosts. Black armored figures with glowing visors. No insignia, no voices, no mercy. They moved with terrifying precision, sweeping through the settlement's outskirts, with pulse weapons drawn, scanning for a single life form. Andrew. In the command hub, chaos erupted. "We have at least 5 incursion points," shouted the young technician. "They're bypassing our grid. They're using hard-coded anti-signal scramblers." Azora stood over the table, eyes sharp. "Initiate manual lockdown protocols. Full analog fallback. Seal the underground tunnels." "But what about the... Do it," she barked with a voice that left no room for doubt. Andrew burst through the doors, pulse blade and hand armor half equipped. "How many?" "Too many," Celeste answered. She handed him his chest plate and loaded her own plasma pistol. "They're not here to capture, they're here to erase." Andrew turned to Azora. "You and Celeste need to get to the safe chamber. I'll lead them away." "No," Azora said firmly. "Not this time." "I'm not losing you," Celeste snapped. Andrew gritted his teeth. "I know this enemy, you don't." "And I know you," Azora said. "You're stronger when you're not alone." Andrew paused, then nodded. "All right, then we fight, together." The first contact happened near the solar arrays. Andrew moved like lightning blade humming with lethal light. He tore through the first 2 soldiers before they could react, striking fast, low, disabling joints and finishing with neck-level slashes. But they adapted. The 3rd soldier read, his move countered, and shot a concussive pulse that launched Andrew into a metal wall with a sickening crack. He groaned, pushing himself up. Behind him, Celeste dropped into cover, pistol blazing. Blue energy blasts ripped into enemy armor. Azora hacked a defense terminal and unleashed the automated turret arrays, heavy bolts of kinetic fire raining down on the squad below. It wasn't enough. "Fall back," Andrew shouted. "They're pushing toward the nursery chamber." Inside the underground sanctuary, children cried. Elders herded families into escape pods while engineers struggled to keep the shield doors powered. One of the black-armored ghosts breached the entry hall, but he didn't expect Azora. She lunged with a shock baton in hand, jamming it under his helmet seam and discharging the full blast of the arc core. The soldier spasmed, then collapsed in a heap of armor and smoke. She didn't even flinch. Celeste covered the rear. Andrew took point. They fought as a unit now, like they'd done it for years. No hesitation, no second guessing. But then came the unmistakable hum. A sound Andrew hadn't heard in years. The Overseer drone. It hovered just above the tree line, a 3-meter-wide disc of black alloy and crimson light scanning every structure with surgical precision. "Asset located," it announced in a distorted, soulless voice. "Initiate target elimination." "No," Andrew growled, stepping out into the clearing. The drone tilted. "Asset 017A, surrender." Andrew raised his blade. "Come take me." It fired. Azora screamed as the crimson beam cut through the dirt, searing a line just inches from Andrew's foot. Celeste unleashed her sidearm, emptying a full charge into the drone's side, only for the shields to absorb it effortlessly. Andrew moved, leaping higher than any human should, blade slicing into the drone's underbelly. Boom! The explosion rocked the trees. Andrew landed hard, coughing smoke. The drone spun out of control, screaming sparks, then crashed, burning in a heap. But the damage was done. He was exposed. Back at the comm center, Varnak stared at the surveillance feed. "They came for him," the elder whispered, "but they'll destroy us all." One of the other counselors turned. "Do we expel him?" "No," Varnak growled. "We protect him. He is no longer just a man, he is the line between extinction and survival." As dusk fell, the final wave came. But this time Belvaria was ready. Engineers overloaded plasma grids, luring squads into traps that electrocuted them instantly. Young volunteers, some barely of age, fired pulse rifles from rooftops. Elders formed a protective ring around the nursery. And at the center of it all, stood Andrew, bleeding, burning, but unbroken. When the last black armored soldier fell and the final drone sparkled out, silence fell again. Real silence. Not fragile, but earned. Azora collapsed into his arms, trembling. "You're hurt." "I'm alive," he whispered. Celeste joined them, her cheek pressed to his. Around them, flames crackled, but in the distance, the suns began to rise. And for the first time in days, the horizon didn't feel like a threat. It felt like hope. Belveria burned for 3 days, not in flames, but in whispers. The air was thick with smoke and memory. Streets once filled with quiet laughter now bore the black scars of invasion. Homes shattered, fields scorched, but within the ashes, hope bloomed, because they had survived. Not just Andrew. All of them. The council convened in secret, but it didn't stay secret for long. Word spread fast. The elders had offered Andrew full asylum. They had seen his sacrifice, his refusal to run. He wasn't the invader anymore. He was Belveria's shield. But Andrew was done. He stood on the ridge outside the settlement with Azora and Celeste beside him. Their hands rested on their swollen bellies. Behind them, the nursery ruins still smoked faintly. "I can't ask this of you," he said quietly. "I know what I carry. My blood, it's a curse." Azora took his hand. "No, it's a story, and we choose how it ends." Celeste leaned into his shoulder. "Let's write the rest somewhere new." He looked out toward the stars. "There's a world on the fringe. No one goes there anymore. It's untouched, quiet, a place where kids can grow up not knowing what a drone sounds like." Azora smiled. "Then that's where we go." They packed what little remained. Varnak was the one to see them off. "You were born as a tool," the old elder said, "but you leave here as something far rarer, a father." Andrew extended a hand. Varnak pulled him into an embrace. "No matter what you face out there," he whispered, "remember this place remembers you." They boarded the transport that same evening. Azora rested in the front cabin, her fingers laced with Celeste's. Andrew stood at the viewport watching Belveria grow smaller. He whispered, "Thank you." And then they were gone. The new world was as promised. Mountains like shattered glass. Skies filled with aurora storms. Water so clear it shimmered like liquid crystal. They built a home near a cliffside grove. Simple, strong, safe. The babies came during a thunderstorm. Twin cries echoed through the night, one boy, one girl, half human, half alien, entirely loved. Andrew held them one in each arm, while Azora and Celeste leaned against him, exhausted but radiant. "What do we name them?" Celeste whispered. Andrew smiled. "The girl, let's call her Hope." Azora nodded, and the boy, she looked into his eyes. Valor. Years passed. Their home filled with music and laughter and muddy footprints on stone floors. The children grew faster than normal, but strong. Curious, kind. Andrew trained them with sticks, not swords. Azora taught them the stars. Celeste taught them both compassion and rebellion in equal measure. They were in every way a family. But every night Andrew would still look to the sky. He never feared his past anymore, but he remembered it. And each time his son said Papa or his daughter fell asleep on his chest, he knew the truth. He hadn't escaped the war. He had won it. Not through fire, not through blood, but through love. One final evening, decades later, the three of them sat on the same porch where so many decisions had been made. The children were grown now, off exploring the galaxy, leaving footprints where none had ever been. Azora's silver-white hair flowed in the wind. Celeste laughed softly at something Andrew said. And Andrew, he closed his eyes and listened. To the stars, to peace, to the sound of forever. He had come as a weapon, but he stayed as a father, and in the end, he left as a legend. The end.